Hey guys, this is Chris from The Blazing Show with Chris, and I am here with Lenore Skenazy, dubbed as the world's worst mom. Hopefully she's there. Hello?
Hello?
Lenore.
Hi. Sorry, I just had a very full schedule till now, but
Oh.
I'm happy to...
It's all right. Welcome to the show, Lenore.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
In case you guys don't know, she's dubbed as the world's worst mom, which I think you're the opposite. I think you're one of the best moms out there.
You wouldn't know, would you?
So before you get into the details on this interesting story with you and your son, talk a little about yourself.
Oh, let's see. I'm really a reporter by trade. I spent 14 years at the New York Daily News, features writing, food writing, and then I was an op-ed columnist, and I still try to give everybody my opinion on everything, and I live in Queens.
Well, and before you, can you preview about the show that you have?
Oh, sure. There's something funny happening to my sound here, but I'll tell you. The show is called World's Worst Mom, and it's on the Discovery Life channel, which is a new channel Discovery just started about 3 weeks ago, and it's hard to find. Go look on your cable for what used to be the Discovery Fit and Health channel. That's where it is, and it's not on everybody's cable carrier, alas, really alas. But if you find me, you'll see me working like the super nanny, except instead of dealing with really bratty kids and trying to get them disciplined, I deal with parents whose worries about their kids are just off the charts. They're just extraordinarily anxious moms and some very anxious dads, but mostly moms, who can only see their kids through the lens of something terrible happening to them. So I'll give you some examples if you want. Do you?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, okay. So, for instance, the very first mom I dealt with has a 10-year-old son, and she still spoon-fed him sometimes, like literally like you do with Gerber's baby food, like fed him in his mouth. Not baby food, but his regular food. And she also wouldn't let him ride a bike. She was worried he'd fall off and hurt himself. She wouldn't let him take a bus, and she wouldn't let him go on an overnight. And that turned out to be sort of par for the course of the moms that I was dealing with, who were found for me by the production company. There was another mom who got herself got her son a skateboard, which he had desperately wanted, but she would only let him use it if he was standing on it on the grass. So he wasn't allowed to move. The wheels weren't allowed to turn. But he did have a skateboard. And another mom.
That is unbelievable. Like, what the heck the wheels are there for? You might as well tell them, stand on a plank or something.
Yeah, what the heck is a phrase that often went through my brain. And another mom, she was just featured, I think, on last week's show, who had a bunch of kids, 5 kids, I think, possibly 6. And her oldest was 13. Her 3 oldest were boys, 13 and I think 11 and 8, something like that. And she still took them, even the 13-year-old, into the ladies' room when they were out in public and one of them needed to go to the bathroom. Frankly, I would hold it in for the rest of my life if I was a 13-year-old boy being brought into the ladies' room. But so be it. And he was extraordinarily embarrassed. A lot of the kids were really nice kids. I'd say for the most part, I was impressed by the children, and I really felt for the moms. The moms didn't want to be nervous like this, like to the point where they were always thinking of their children, dying. It's a terrible feeling, but they didn't know how to stop, and that's why I was there.
Oh, and now we get to the fun part. Your story between you and your son, how you let him go into the subway alone.
Yes, I did. Why don't you tell the story? I've told it a bunch of times. Do you know the story?
I've only heard it, but I thought I'd ask you. You were the mother, so you had the floor.
I am the actual mother. That's true. Well, I'll tell you. My son is 16 now, and he's taller than me, and he's shaving, has a deep voice. But way back when he was 9 years old and still cuter, he started asking my husband and me if we would let him, if we'd take him someplace he hadn't been before here in New York City, where we live, and let him find his own way home on the subway. And my husband and I discussed it, and we decided, yes, that sounds reasonable because he speaks the language, he can read a map. We're always on the subway, that's how we get around. Why not let him? And so one sunny Sunday, I took him to Bloomingdale's, which is at 59th Street and Lexington Avenue, one of the fanciest zip codes in America. And I left him. I said, okay, today's the day, and I left him in the handbag department. Not completely, useless. I gave him. I guess I wasn't completely useless. I gave him a Metro card and quarters for the phone, and a map if he needed it, and $20 just in case there was an emergency and he needed to hop a cab.
Whoa.
And that was it. He came home separately from me, and that started the whole revolution when I wrote a
Damn.
column about it.
Wait, where did you originally write this story? You said right or a column. Was it for the Daily News or for something?
No, the Daily News by then had already fired me. What can you do?
Wait, they
So
fired
I
you
was
because of
working at
this?
yeah, I have to say, your listeners are mostly college students, Chris. Is that what you'd say?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, let me tell you. Here I am, 55, the older lady in your life. You're all going to be fired. You're going to be fired at some point, and you'll probably be fired again. And it's happened to me. It's happened to my husband. It's happened to all my friends who I think are fantastic, smart, wonderful, easy to get along with people. And of course, the less easy to get along with people also get fired. But we all get fired at some point, and it's no longer a mark of shame. It's just a disruptive economy, and that's the way it goes. So anyways, yes, I was indeed fired from the New York Daily News after 14 wonderful years there, and I ended up at a much smaller paper that turned out to be tons of fun. That's the other thing that happens when you're fired. You find new worlds. And that was called the New York Sun. And the New York Sun was a deeply intellectual paper, and unlike the Daily News, which was a feisty tabloid, one of the smaller shaped papers, the New York Sun was a big paper, and it had opera news and arts news and deep analysis of the political situation today and around the world. And then it also had me writing my tabloid stuff, and the column I wrote there was simply why I let my 9-year-old ride the subway alone.
Oh.
And 2 days after the column was in the paper, I was on everything from the Today Show to Fox News to
Wow.
NPR defending my decision.
Wait, so what reactions did you get exactly besides the world's worst mom? I'm sure you got positive reactions. Like, what kind of reactions did you
Yeah,
get?
I mean, it was when I first started talking about this, the very first big show I did, and I think the one that sort of started the furor, was that we were on the Today Show, and it's Izzy and me together. And they don't let you go on the Today Show looking like you normally look, or certainly not looking the way I normally look, which is why I have you on Skype audio and not video. But so they have you in the chair, and they're putting makeup all over you, and they're teasing your hair, and they're getting the lint off you and the crumbs off your cheek, and basically wiping the sleep out of your eyes and making you look presentable. And as they were doing it, they're saying, "Oh, what do you want today to talk about?" And I said, "Oh, I let my 9-year-old ride the subway by himself."
Oh.
And everyone in the makeup room, which is, the hair teasers and the makeup appliers and the hair dryers and the wardrobe people are all saying, "Oh, we did that. Oh, that was so fun. Oh, I remember I was 8 when I did it. And oh, I came home to an empty house. And boy, we had fun. And we would get on our bikes in the morning and blah, 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 blah." So they were all thinking about their very joyous childhoods and reminiscing quite fondly. And then I'd say, "Yeah, that's what I want kids to do again." And they'd say, "Oh, no.
Uh-oh.
We could never do that today." And they very much believed that all the fun and joy that they had as kids was impossible to give their own kids because we were living in such unsafe times. But I'm a reporter. I do research. And in all my research on crime and American society and what's happening today and looking up the FBI statistics, I can tell you that today's children live in a world that is safer with less crime than when today's parents were children.
Wow. So why did you feel was the right time for your son? Like, just because he was 9? Why did you do it? Like, you said that one woman said that, "Oh, I did that when I was 8." How come you said it was 9? Like, he just asked you and he just went? Or, I don't...
He was asking. I mean, really, we have 2 children, 2 sons, and the older one is 2 years older than the subway rider. Of course, they're both subway riders by now. They're 18 and 16, for God's sake. But when my older son was 9, he wasn't asking to ride the subway by himself, so we didn't think about it, and he didn't. Izzy was really intrigued by public transportation and has always had the driving force of really wanting to be a grown-up. And I think to a 9-year-old, being able to get yourself around, whether it's on a bike or a scooter or a skateboard or a subway, is extraordinarily attractive. And so it was when he asked us, my husband and I, that we really contemplated it. We hadn't thought about it until he brought it up. A little child shall lead them.
Wow, so why were you called the world's worst mom? Now, we're exaggerating here, but, like, why, in your perspective?
Well, I wasn't originally called the world's worst mom. I was originally America's worst mom. But when I got the TV show, they gave me a promotion. I think I was called America's Worst Mom.
Oh man.
I've thought about this for a long time, so I'll give you what I really do believe is the answer. And that is that it wasn't so much that I let my son ride the subway or that we live in New York, so I sent him on this really iconic form of transportation, which people see in the movies as filled with, rats and terrorists and aliens who have 16 legs. My problem was, that wasn't the thing that I did wrong. I think what I did wrong that made many people disparage me is that when inevitably the interviewer would say, "But Lenore, how would you have felt if he never came home?" I never had a good answer for that because I hadn't been thinking that way. And it turns out that that was my crime. I wasn't thinking that way. To be a good parent in America, you are actually supposed to be actively engaging in horrifying fantasies about your child when you think about them doing anything. Did you watch the Super Bowl last night?
Yes. Oh.
Did you see that nationwide ad where they show the kid saying, "I wish I could ride my trike and have a first kiss on the bus and, someday get married, but I won't have any of those things happen to me because I'm dead. I died in an accident." Did you see that one?
Probably not. I saw one ad about a dog and the horses do whatever it takes to
Dog and horses. You saw the only good ad. Actually, I like the ad for the glue to the Stay Tight or whatever it was, Stick Tight. I like that. But this ad was for an insurance company called Nationwide, and I'm happy to say that it's been getting a lot of pushback today because it was gruesome to see a child on the screen saying, "I'll never grow up because I'm dead," and implying that it was his parents' fault for not paying enough attention and not helicoptering him. And so by virtually getting on television and saying, "I'm not a helicopter mom, I'm not worried about my child dying every time I think of him doing anything," I was going against the national narrative, which is to imagine your child dead. And, I can barely say this to national audiences. This is why I'm saying it to you, Chris, because I don't think you're, out there like ABC. But it's really hard to say this. But we are, as a culture, consumed with the idea of our children dying. And if you're not consumed with it, you obviously don't care enough.
Oh yeah. I might have. Well, I actually looked it up. It's called "Make Safe Happen," and it was like
depressing. Make Safe Happen is their ad campaign for Nationwide. And you know what? I love safety. I mean, that's the ironic thing. I'm painted as a daredevil, and if you knew how much I worry about my kids, and my son who's 16 is out there right now getting a driving lesson, and I'm so happy that he's getting a lesson in the snow because I'm very worried about him driving and having 2 tons of steel.
You wanted to prepare him.
Wiggling around on the street out there. So I believe in safety, and I believe in car seats, everything from, eating right while you're pregnant up till car seats, up till seat belts, up to tons and tons of driving lessons. I signed up for another extra 10 driving lessons for my son. That's how a daredevil I am. And yet, if you're not picturing your kid dead, all bets are off because Nancy Grace has taught us that the only thing you can think of when you let your kid do anything is what terrible thing could befall him.
Come on, that's very common actually. What you just said there. They always think about the bad stuff, but they never think of the child how he or she would feel once they actually get to accomplish something. Right.
Well, I'm glad you're mentioning that feeling of accomplishment because that is something that. It turns out that that's the only thing that changes parents. So in the show, when I meet the families who won't let their kid be on a skateboard or climb a tree or take a bus, that's exactly what I do. I take the kids aside and I sort of lock the parents in their house, or sometimes I send them out to a nice meal. And while they're busy, preoccupied, either talking to me or yelling at me or eating something delicious, I take the kids and I say, "Okay, go to the mall. Okay, walk to school." Wow. Or, you know what? Here's some lemon, here's some sugar, here's some water, have a lemonade stand down the block. And when they do, and they have this great time, and they come back and they've just had a fun afternoon, or they just walked home for their first time, and they're feeling a little taller, and they're proud, and they're happy, that's what breaks through the fear, is when the parents see that their kid isn't a helpless baby. They get to see the joy of seeing their kid be competent and confident. That's what finally dispels the fear. Not me and my FBI statistics.
Oh, by the way, what did celebrities say about you? What did
Celebrities? I don't think
yeah.
there's any celebrity talking about me whatsoever. I'm sorry to say.
Or
I
in
don't know any
general,
celebrity
do you
talking
know
about me.
anybody who's like who's probably like let's well not a celebrity but like they've been on TV, like any famous person you know that might have said something, might have mentioned you, or just
Yeah, well, I'm trying to think. I've been on a lot of TV shows. Anderson Cooper seems to be behind me. He says he was raised a free range kid. He says he was
oh
raised a
wow.
feral kid, which means, like wild, like raised by wolves. And I was just on a show called Nightline. And what I really appreciated about the host or the guy who did the report, whose name is David Wright, is that after talking to me and saying, once you let your kids do something on their own, you will feel really proud and they will feel fantastic. I mean, they will feel transformed. He actually tried it with his own kids. He has he has three daughters. One's too little, but he has a daughter 7 and a daughter 6. And they wanted to walk across the street here in New York City to the playground and play there together. So once again, they're not alone, and it's just across the street. And this is something that in any other era, a 7-year-old walking across one street to get to the playground wouldn't have been considered radical or dangerous or crazy. It would have just been an extremely normal part of life. So he decided to let them, and he was really afraid. I mean, he was so afraid that his 6-year-old actually texted him to reassure him, "Don't worry, Daddy, I'm fine. I'm having a good time. Signed, your 6-year-old daughter who has more guts than you." But anyways, what I appreciated is that afterwards, he honestly interviewed them, and he was brave enough to do this on camera, and he asked the kids, "Was it terrible? Were you scared?" And they said no. They had a great time. Even the little girl who had been a little trepidatious at first said, "No, I had fun. I can't wait to do it again." So once you actually open yourself to the idea that maybe the fears are out of whack, out of proportion with reality, and you just let yourself try letting your kid have a little bit of freedom even once, your kids change and you change. And that's the coolest thing to me. You don't need a shrink. You don't need a long program. You don't, I'm sorry to say, you don't even need me. You just need to do it, and it will change you.
You were even in this, well, this kind of, I'm not sure if it's a podcast called Big Think. I
Oh,
don't know if
that's old. Yeah.
Big Think. It's a bunch of people from Stephen Hawking to Michio Kaku. Like, do you know much about Big Think? I like it personally, and especially with I am also a big fan of Bill Nye.
Oh, everybody loves Bill Nye. Right. Big Think is just a lot like the TED Talks, except instead of doing it to an audience, you just talk directly to a camera and a cameraman or woman. And it's just people who have notions that might be surprising or intriguing to the public. They put a bunch of us on air, and there you have us, me and Stephen Hawking. Yeah, I wish I was as famous as Stephen Hawking, but I don't wish to be plagued by serious illness. So I guess I'll just take the trade-off.
By the way, what do you know about TED actually? Because
TED Talks.
yeah, it's a TED
TED
Talk.
Talks are really popular. They started out. They stood originally. I guess they still do stand for. I think technology, education, and design. And originally they were given pretty much for the geek world. You'd be invited. If you got in, it was a big deal, even to be in the audience. And people would lecture on sort of the future or deep ideas or philosophical concepts that a lot of people hadn't thought about yet. And gradually they democratized to the point where now there are TEDx talks, which are shorter talks, and they're given not just at the one annual event or semi-annual event. They're given all around the country. And I would like to give one. If anybody from TED Talks is listening, I haven't given one. I tried out for one with just a little video and didn't get a call back, hoping to
Very
change that someday,
too.
but all in good time.
It's very expensive too, I believe, for TED.
To go to the original ones, yeah. Yeah.
Oh. What do you think the misconceptions that parents have when it comes to their kids, besides being trepidatious? They're afraid something bad is going to happen to their kid. I'm getting real tired when it comes to parents. That's why kids cannot progress. Kids don't know basic stuff besides watching the TV all day. The parents think like they're accomplished, which that actually pisses me off because you're not really teaching your kid anything. I don't know.
Well, talk to me about you. How old are you?
I'm 20.
Okay.
And
did you get to walk to school, for instance?
yeah, but my mom and my dad, they would be like how like the average parent would be, I've only been I haven't been, uh, I don't know how to drive that well yet, and so I've
Mm-hmm.
only have a permit, but it took it was very painstaking just to try to get it, and like my dad wouldn't support me at first, and then like eventually, he would want to like my parents are like most parents, unfortunately, that they don't they're did you make that term up, free range? They're not free range.
Yeah.
What exactly is free range meaning?
Well, when after I was on all those TV shows after I let my son ride the subway by himself, and everybody was calling me terrible or negligent or abusive or whatever, I wanted to explain that I actually love safety and that my intention was never to put my son in harm's way, but rather to let him gradually spread his wings. And so when you think of spreading your wings, you think of birds, and then you think of birds in little cages who aren't allowed to spread their wings, like those chickens, and how we came up with that movement, free range chickens, which
Wow.
said, look, chickens deserve to at least be able to peck at the ground, for God's sake, because that's so much to ask, instead of being in tiny little crates. And those are free range chickens, so I just called the site Free Range Kids because I thought the analogy is pretty obvious that everybody deserves a little bit of freedom, and that we've gotten so concerned for our children's safety that we don't think that they can afford it, that we can afford to give them any freedom. But of course we can. It's a basic right. It's a basic right of all animals. And I'm not an animal activist whatsoever, and I eat meat with abandon. So it's not that. It's just the idea that it's not fair to keep children cooped up.
Oh, by the way, what advice would you give to other parents? So I guess just give their children a chance, but like, how do you know when it's like the right age, etc.? Because you have all kinds of parents from different walks of life, so that could be
I
very common.
do, yeah. I give a lot of lectures. That's actually how I make my living, is giving talks. And when I do, there's a little exercise that I sometimes walk the audience through. And what I do is, I'll do it really quickly here with you, is I'll do it with you literally right now. I have people close their eyes and think for a moment, and it's an unpleasant moment or two, about somebody that made them feel terrible about themselves. And it could be a classmate, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a boss, somebody who made them feel really terrible, like you're unsuccessful and unlovable, and your future doesn't hold anything good. So this was an exercise I did. I was in the audience once when another lecturer had us do this, and I flashed on a horrible old boyfriend, and it was miserable. And I was happy when she said we could open our eyes and just tell her who the person was. Could you think of somebody who made you feel bad about yourself, like you were just incompetent and bad?
Hmm. Not well,
If you
not
can, you don't
not.
have to do it right now. And usually, what I do is I give people a little space, which I'm not giving you because we're on radio, but I would give them about a half a minute or a minute. And when people open their eyes, they look discomfited, and I say, "Well, where did you feel it?" And they say, "Oh, I felt it like a weight on my chest, or it was on my shoulders," or they sort of hunker when they think of this person who didn't believe in them. And then I say, "Well, now we get to do the fun part, which is to think of somebody who did believe in you, and who believed in you maybe even before you believed in yourself." And so people close their eyes, and you can do this, Chris, while I natter on for a minute. And I have them be, just closing your eyes and thinking about somebody who thought that, like, wow, you can do it, or you're terrific, or especially, I believe in you. And for me, it was my seventh grade teacher who, most important to me, told me that someday I would have a boyfriend, which I just could not believe at the time. So is there somebody who you feel like believed in you maybe even before you did? Oh, Chris? Oh, Chris, we got to pause for a second. I'm just going to get rid of this caller because I forgot to turn off my phone. 1 second. You think about somebody you believed in.
All right.
Hello, it's Lenore. I'm on a radio interview and I have to call you back. Who is this? Okay. Okay, I'll call you back in a few minutes. Okay, thanks. Okay, bye-bye, Aunt Jewel.
Hmm.
Now, there's somebody, a relative, who's always thought I was really brilliant. How about you, Chris? Do you have somebody who believed in you or believes in you?
Probably maybe an aunt, well, before she passed, but she would always give me advice. I think that's what I could think of.
Okay. So can you feel that in any part of your body? I mean, I'm not a touchy-feely person, but does that feel like something in some part of your body?
I'm not sure if I feel it like maybe maybe around my chest or something. Or maybe where
Yeah.
my heart is.
Yeah.
That's
Sometimes it feels like a lightness or just a easier way to breathe when you think about that person. And I'm actually sitting up straighter as I think of of the person who believed in me. And then the final little bit of this exercise I do with the audience, and it probably won't work with your audience because your listeners are younger, but I ask generally the parents who are in the audience to think back on something that they did as children that they loved doing, that they don't let their own children do.
Oh,
And
yes.
they talk about things amongst themselves. I mean, I could leave the room and they would still be talking when I came back after having a full 4-course meal because they love talking about it. Oh, we rode our bikes in the morning and we didn't come back till the streetlights came on. Or, oh, we would go in the forest and we made forts. Or, oh, we would, a lot of kids seem to love, they explored housing developments before they were, totally built. They would like climb around the half-built houses. So people remember this very fondly, and I say, well, if this is what you loved doing, why wouldn't you give that precious experience to your own kids? Because the message you're giving them by doing everything with them or for them, as if they can't do them by themselves, is that I sure love you. Nobody doubts that you love the kids. But the message they're getting is I love you, but I don't believe in you. I don't even believe in you to the point where I can give you my childhood. And when people hear it put that way, it sometimes has a bit of a transformative effect because they think, yeah, I am trying to give my kids a fantastic childhood, and I buy them what I can, and I take them on vacations, or I give them lessons or whatever. Why am I not giving them what I had? And I add, especially considering today's crime rate is down at a 50-year low. It's back to what it was in 1963. So if it's not more dangerous today, it's less dangerous. Why aren't you trusting your kids? Why are you giving them the message, I just don't believe in you?
That's what I don't get. Is it like because of TV? I don't know if it's in this country, but in Europe, people think it differently. In Europe, you like if you're in Italy, kids actually drink wine, and here you can't drink alcohol or something like that.
You won't believe it, but we have an Italian here, and he's 17 years old, and I'm going to bring him here. Oh, Giovanni, he's our exchange student for the year.
Sure.
He's walking over to the.
By the way, do you know where your sons are right now?
Here's our 17-year-old from Italy. Do they let you drink wine in Italy?
Yes, they do.
Nice to meet you, young man.
Hi, nice to meet you.
This is Chris. Right?
Because they don't think that a little bit of wine or beer at the dinner table is a problem even for a little kid. It's not like liters of it. It's just maybe a little bit of it in a cup.
Because
it's not trying to get you drunk. It's just trying to let you feel a little bit older, maybe.
That's so interesting because that's exactly the point. They believe in you. They don't think you're going to become an alcoholic because they gave you a thimbleful of wine with your pasta, right?
Right.
Oh.
So I don't know about the rest of what they let you do in Italy. I don't know. Are there other things that they let you do that we don't, that Americans don't?
Well, the thing of kids walking to school is the issue is not really an issue in Italy because I find that many parents allow their kids to go to school like on their own,
What
or
age?
just elementary school I would say, and like probably when you're 8 or 9, and I started with a friend, so like a friend was a couple years older, and was like, come home with me, and then I told my mom they go to school on my own, and she said okay. And slowly you start getting your independence, and that's it. Well, there's the wine thing. I think it's famous. You brought it up, Chris, and yeah, definitely. Or I don't know.
And you ride your bike to school now, right?
Yeah, I do.
Right.
Yes, I do.
Could it be because of as far as the wine thing goes, could it be that Europe is not much of an alcohol problem as there is here? Here is like too much abuse on alcohol, but in Europe it's like not completely different. Could that be?
I don't know. Can be. I'm not sure. Some countries, what I've heard, I'm not sure, is that probably because here it's the legal age to drink is 21. Many kids are like trying to drink before it,
They
and
still do. They still do it. Like
Yeah,
like they,
yeah, right.
They
So-
can't get everybody. Kids are gonna do it eventually. I'm not condoning that, but I'm saying that that's just some people are gonna do it. So you can't stop them. And if you try to, you're actually that's more like a tyranny in a way.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I was talking about the age because for years the age for drinking legally was 16 in Italy at least, and I think in some part of Europe too, and then it was raised to 18, and so I think that the mentality of being strict with alcohol comes from that, meaning the age is 21, so many kids under 21 are trying to drink and getting drunk, and so parents are afraid and they're not they're being even more strict and they're not allowing anything.
Everything seems to be going up in age in terms of when we trust kids to do anything. I mean,
I know.
um,
And then they
it
realize.
just feels like, I was just going to say, like, even when I was going to school as a kid, we walked to school in kindergarten, and our crossing guards were 10-year-olds. And now, last week, there was a big story about a 10-year-old who was walking home with his 6-year-old sister from a park, and the parents were arrested because this was
Oh,
considered too
no.
dangerous. How could a 10-year-old possibly look after
And
a
then
6-year-old?
CPS goes after them. That's
Right.
That's
And it's not that it's happening all the time. I mean, the cases get a lot of attention, but the point is that it's like acting as if there's no difference between a 10-year-old and a 2-year-old. And the fact that they, in our country raised the drinking age from 18 to 21 as if suddenly this is the first generation that can't handle drinking at 18. I mean, why did we decide that only, that everything has to be skewed older before we let kids do it?
I know. And what about what's your stance on, let's say, taking a kid out hunting or firing range? Like I'm not that fan of doing that, but maybe in places like Texas, and I've even looked at a picture in Switzerland, some kids are actually firing guns, but here is not, unless you're a southerner, that's not really the case. I don't know.
Well, here's something very strange. I live in New York City, and here the subway rider, who's now 16, has just come home from his driving lesson, and he can tell you about shooting range. Let's hear.
Shooting range?
Don't you remember?
Shooting range.
Yeah, like with a gun.
Oh, yeah.
Talk
Well,
to him.
Are you the 9-year-old?
So, I'm sorry?
Are you the
I'm
9-year-old?
I'm the original free range kid.
Oh wow, nice to meet you too.
Nice to meet you. At least in the city, it's much more difficult, obviously, to even own a gun. But
Which is good.
Yeah, for those gun enthusiasts or just who like to shoot recreationally, there are these small underground shooting ranges, deep in Queens and outside of subway range. But you go downstairs to a basement, and there are the gun magazines lying around everywhere.
I didn't go
Guy
with them.
smoking
My husband
cigarettes.
took them. Yeah.
And so you can rent a rifle from them after a safety training course. It takes maybe 10 minutes. And you can rent a gun for about $15 for the night, and you can buy bullets, which are relatively cheap. And they give you targets, and you shoot underground. The range is maybe 20 feet, and they have this little metal thing at the back that catches all the bullets, essentially. But it's unusual in the city. It's so much different.
It is. But he's a Boy Scout, and I think there was a badge or something, wasn't there?
It's a shotgun badge, there's the rifle badge, and that's a great way for kids in the city to get the experience of shooting a gun.
Now, would you ever carry a gun in real life
Oh,
in
never.
the city? No, of course not. So that's the other thing, too. You sort of, I mean, like in terms of trusting my son, I trusted that he could go to a shooting range and try this and not turn into a gun-wielding maniac, just like I can trust him to drink some wine at supper and not turn into a raging alcoholic. Our country sort of goes from, I always call it worst first thinking. You take the worst case scenario first and you act as if it's always going to happen. So if I let my kid walk to school, they're going to be kidnapped by a predator. If I let him go to a driving range, he's going to end up in a gang. And if I let him drink wine, he's going to end up, drinking 4 roses out of a paper bag in the gutter somewhere. And you don't always have to go to that dark place. But when you asked originally why was I controversial, it wasn't just for letting Izzy ride the subway. It was for not going to the darkest place when I did.
Oh, by the way, I had another thing. It was motocross. I don't know if you guys heard that kid show, Postcards from Buster. When they went to Oregon, I felt like a loser. I'm gonna be honest, because there are kids that are like 4 years old and they go in motocross.
I'm not sure what
I don't know if you've
motocross
seen the
is.
show.
It's like hardcore motorcycling. On
Have you seen the show though?
No.
It was that part where he went to Oregon and I saw little kids like almost like they were babies in a motocross bike. I'm not joking.
I believe it.
Wow.
It's that's Honey Boo Boo's
That's
future.
excellent.
Yeah, right.
Wait, so what do you think about that? Like in Oregon, where you could, I don't know if you guys have ever motocross. I wish I could do it. And I'm 20 and there's little kids that are motocross bike. I was like so envious. I don't know.
Well, it sounds like it's time for you to get some driving lessons, Chris.
Have you guys ever
I
tried
bet there are
one?
motocross lessons somewhere.
There must be motocross
must be.
lessons. So I that's not my deep desire for me or my kids, so I'm not going to pursue it. But if there's, the point is that it behooves parents to listen to their kids, to try to get a grip on their anxiety. And believe me, I have enough anxiety that I know it's hard to get a grip on. But from my TV show, mostly from my TV show, and then from doing some free-range house calls, which I've started doing as a way to make a living, I've seen that basically if you take kids away from a parent for even as short as an afternoon and you let them run an errand, learn to ride a bike, I'm trying to remember, go to the store, get the mix, come home and bake a cake without mom doing it with them, it changes the parents as surely as it changes the kids. I'd say it changes the parents more.
Well, as far as like when it comes to doing things, like how can you still maintain good relationships with your parents? Because like when your mom says like, oh, I don't think you should do something, it's too dangerous, and if I actually do it, and then she gets like pissed off, and I'm like, I don't want to live my life, I don't want to lack living my life, and like she did, and then like. I don't know, like
you don't want to upset your mother, and yet you want to have more independence. Look, Chris, you're 20. Here's an idea: get an interventionist, not me. Get a friend to come over and say, together we're going out tonight, or together we're going to take a little trip, or something like that. And so it's not just you, and it's not you saying, I don't love you or I don't respect you, Mom. It's just you asserting a little of your independence, and you're doing it maybe with someone else. So it's a lot less threatening than you just doing something by yourself. And then you go do it. And I can only tell you that having watched this happen with so many families that I dealt with on World's Worst Mom, 12 of the 13 families that were extremely anxious changed to the point where they were unrecognizable after they had this pride in their kids replacing the fear. So let your mom see what you're doing. Let her be proud of you. It does require a little bit of assertiveness on your part, but I think that your mom and you will both be happier after you've done it. And I have to go because my aunt, who believes in me.
All right.
So, gotta talk to her.
Or before you go, what do you want to tell everybody and about like to everyone who's listening, etc. Where you go?
Oh, all your listeners should know that if they'd like to talk to me, I'm always online. You can go to freerangekids.com. There's a little contact button. You can write to me. I love giving lectures. Like I said, it's how I earn a living because I blog for free. So if you know of any school or college or community group or conference that needs a great speaker, here I am. It's also on the freerangekids.com site. I think
there's a show too.
And they should watch my show, World's Worst Mom, on Discovery Life. Good luck finding Discovery Life. And it's not Lifetime. That's the most important thing. It's not Lifetime. It's Discovery Life. And
how did you get
I love hearing stories of success. So if you, Chris, go home and you tell your mom, guess what, Mom? Today I'm, planning a trip for myself for the weekend, and or Mom, I'm going to do something wonderful for you. I'm going to build you something or other, a table, a new life, whatever you're going to build for your mom. Be kind to her. She raised you. She loves you. She's just worried. We all are worried. Just show her the kid she has who is growing up. She'll be proud, and you'll be free.
Oh yeah, and how did you get your own show? Because that costs a lot of money. Like I think you're lucky.
Oh, you know what? We'll have to talk another time, Chris.
All right,
and I'll
I want to get you on next time.
I picked up the phone one day and somebody gave me a show.
All right, I want to get you on in maybe a few months if that's possible. All right. Thank you, and tell him, thank you.
I'll tell Izzy and Giovanni thank you, and I think
Thank
how
you.
you guys have
It's
fun.
nice meeting you guys. Thank you very much. Bye now.
Okay, ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao, Chris.
Ciao. That was freaking awesome. You know, and as far as in a way evolving, we have to change the what we think on when it comes to how we raise our kids. Because do we want them to be bubble wrap forever? Come on now. Even back then in the 1950s, I think those people would slap us today as far as how we raise our kids. Because back then, they were actually real men and women. They could teach us a lesson, a thing or two or three, you know. But hopefully, and check out her show. Good luck finding the channel on Discovery. So I wish I could be in that show. My parents could get some tutoring on how to be parents. And I'm sure you guys would want your parents to be tutored once in a while.